What's love got to do with it? Got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion?
I don't know who I am anymore. Forgot what I was looking for. I'm noticing how the lens turns for when I'm asking why. I don't know who I am anymore. Forgot what I was looking for. I'm noticing how the lens turns.
Singer and songwriter Westerman has returned for his second album, An Inbuilt Fault. Compared to their first album, Your Hero Is Not Dead, released in 2020, An Inbuilt Fault is more brooding and expansive, but still maintains the post-rock experimentation of their first release. The songs on here remind me a lot of the 80s band Talk Talk, especially in their post-rock phase. And the singing feels like Police-era Sting. An Inbuilt Fault also sees Westerman moving to Athens, Greece, which plays a substantial role in the songs that we get on this project. The opening track, Give, begins with a sprawling, epic tale of betrayal. Westerman sings about how he let someone down, with comparisons to Judas Iscariot, apologizing to the person that he betrayed by saying it's not easy to give. I can imagine for some people that the slow build of this song might not be as satisfying, but if you like your music to take its time, there is a lot on this track worth exploring, and this goes for a lot of the other songs on this album. We then get the very pretty song, Idol Rerun. And no, this is not about the singing competition. Although it might make the singing competition a bit more fun once we get to what's going on in this song. No, instead of being about the Idol TV show, this song is about the assassination of leaders, who are then replaced by more leaders who are just as idolized and just as often eventually killed as well. This leaves Westerman to suggest that we don't need a rerun. We could just end this cycle. There is also this delightful line where Westerman describes the idol as being just like any other motherfucker, before, again, repeating motherfucker in this very dreamy sequence. It's just brilliant. It is also worth noting that this song was inspired by the events on January 6th, which was the storming of the US Capitol building. Although I do appreciate that this influence is not directly stated. It is just kind of alluded to in that it is about people choosing one idol over another. The song has these sleigh bells and horns, which is combined with this very rich production and makes for one of the more popular songs on this album. The track, I Catullus, is an 80s throwback that sounds like a mix of Talk Talk and Peter Gabriel, especially with the drums and the synths having that distinct experimental 80s vibe to them. The song title is a reference to the Roman poet of the same name, Catullus, while the song is about death. Again, there seems to be themes of public executions here, with being stoned having a double meaning, but then a reference to bitter leaves, almost as if it's Socrates drinking the hemlock. Westerman also sings that death is a train that cuts through state lines, which gives a feeling that either death is eventually going to come for all of us, or that you can't escape state punishment by simply leaving. There are a few moments here that Westerman hits notes that I don't love. There are also moments of this song that I feel sag a bit, but overall it is still an interesting and engaging tune. We then get the wonderful song, CSI Petrolona. The song seems to be a tale about Westerman being murdered by someone that he knows. The song is pretty simple, yet haunting in a bright way. The drums are very Tom-centric, without any cymbals, and it is complemented by some acoustic guitars that are both strummed and picked. Westerman's singing on the chorus is also just mesmerizing, as he describes the killer placing his hands over his ears and eyes. It is worth constantly mentioning, but Westerman's vocals are just beautiful on this entire project. We then get the interesting song, Help Didn't Help at All, which primarily consists of this weird reverberating harp sound and some guitar harmonics. There are also these beautiful backing vocals that float in the background and gives a really eerie and haunting effect. Help Didn't Help at All sees Westerman asking for help but feeling alone and realizing he only has himself, but that feels ephemeral. I do wish the song had a bit more to it, since after some of the dynamics at the beginning of this song, it just sort of plods on for the rest of the track. However, the mood of the song does fit that sort of isolation vibe, which matches the themes in the lyrics. We then get my favorite song on this album, which is A Lens Turning. This song has this dance beat with a clean electric guitar combined with these ambient noises throughout. Sometimes these songs can plod on a bit, but even as one of the longest songs on this album, A Lens Turning keeps me interested the whole time. The song jams out for almost 2 minutes before Westerman starts to sing, and yet I am still captivated by where this song is taking me. When Westerman finally decides to sing, it is about realizing flaws in himself that he thought he had already worked through or gotten rid of. In this sense, those feelings feel as some sort of imitation. In the chorus, though, he belts out that he doesn't know who he is anymore, in just wonderful existential terror. It is so heartbreaking, yet Westerman's voice is just perfect. We then get the soft-spoken track, Take. It feels, thematically, like the complement to the opening track, Give, in that one should give, but Westerman sings on Take that taking breaks the heart of love. The song sees Westerman reflecting on the state of the world and wondering how one can even make an album while the world is melting. When that line drops as well, it is so wonderfully executed and offers an interesting change of pace compared to the rest of the song. That idea, though, about whether one should be engaged in these excessive activities like creating art when the world is dying, it never fully get resolved on this album. But I don't think it should be, because we are in that moment right now. Things aren't resolved, and things do feel kind of chaotic, and that we're going head first into the abyss. We then get the title track, An Inbuilt Fault, which in connection to Athens seems to be about democracy. There also is a criticism of what is often called cancel culture on this song, in that Westerman sings, "You call out strangers, well, it's helpful to talk." This seems also to relate to the title, in that we have an inbuilt fault that keeps us in constant conflict. I don't think talking is the ideal strategy here. Some people aren't going to change their minds, and maybe Westerman himself is aware of this, considering he thinks this is some sort of innate human failure. He even ends the song by asking, "Are you as afraid as I am?" Almost as if he can't actually find a way out of this. Although it is interesting that the music does maintain this kind of hopeful yet also sullen tone. I also do not think this is some sort of innate thing. I do think that we have the capacity to change and make things better, especially if we find solidarity with others who share similar goals. But I do share his sort of concern that we are heading directly into tragedy and we have to move fast, and that almost seems impossible. The closing track, Pilot Was a Dancer, begins with a change, almost sounding like a 90s alternative rock song before switching back to the post-rock sound on the rest of the album. Westerman wonders throughout the song whether he is the last one living, while describing the pilot of life as a dancer and a jagaloon, almost as if there's no purpose to life. That no matter what Westerman would have done, he would have always ended up here and in tears. It is kind of a downer of a message on this album, and I don't necessarily agree with this kind of picture of fate, but I think the lack of purpose that Westerman feels makes sense in the face of climate change and the rise of fascism, things Westerman has reflected on throughout this project, and I can understand why he ends up here in almost a nihilistic existential crisis. But I do think that the music offers this additional bit of hope in that it's not completely nihilistic. I am left feeling that Westerman is just capturing a mood, although there is a realization that we can't give up. I have to say, this was a great album with a lot to think about. I also love the Talk Talk influences throughout this album, considering that Talk Talk is one of my favorite bands from the 80s. Of course, it's not identical to the Talk Talk sound, but like, you can really feel the influence on this album. I also think Westerman's vocals here are fantastic. They really know when to punctuate. The album, though, was not without its flaws, as some of the songs do tend to plod a bit. I think if he would have tightened up a few of the tracks, it would have made for a more enjoyable listen. But overall, I would give this album an 8.5 out of 10. What did you think of this album? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Were you blasé about it? Let me know in the comments. Also, consider like and subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot. And, yeah, rest in peace, Tina Turner.